But a lot of people are talking about the fact that, everybody's been saying that Busta doesn't have anybody to go against. So there's been this post that's been going around where people feel like Missy is the best matchup for Busta Rhymes. So the post says the reason why y'all can't find the right person to battle Busta Rhymes is because you're looking at the wrong gender. Twista posted this too. It's been a meme going around, but Twista posted this. And
Right.
Twista says some of my fans have asked me for a versus with Busta Rhymes. My time is coming, but for Busta, this would be the dopest I've seen. And then the brat comes in there and says, "This would be ill. She got joints. She writes songs. Uh, she writes songs for majors. Whitney, Janet, Mariah, Aaliyah, etc., etc. Not to mention her collabos. Missy Elliott would take this one hands down." What do y'all think in the room? Do y'all think that Busta Rhymes' best matchup is Missy Elliott? Do you think it's another good matchup for Busta out there? Like, what do you think about this, Coop? Or what do you think about the fact that the brat says that Missy would beat Busta Rhymes in a verse?
I don't agree that she would beat Buster Rhymes, but I'm highly fascinated. I'm going to tell you why.
Go ahead.
Missy got haymakers, and people need to recognize like she has haymakers. She has records that she can throw on. Like her and Timberland were magic together. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she has records that she can throw on that can legitimately compete with Buster's high energy, pace, hit record making capability, innovation, creatively, and performance wise, she can match him.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not an MC conversation, but she checks every other box to do this shit, Mike. Yes, she do.
Mm-hmm.
She checks every other box to do it except for all the MC level capability. But
Right.
as far as the songs, for anything else you want, yeah, she got it.
It
I don't
is
think she'd
intriguing.
win because of what I said, because of it's a versus, so that MC capability. Like Buster's gonna do some stuff a cappella probably, like the Chris Brown shit, and just display his MCing skills.
Right.
Oh, but yeah, but it's fascinating, and yeah, she is a worthy opponent. And anybody saying that she's not, don't like, they don't know they shit.
I
she,
think that both of them have similar, I guess, issues when it comes to matching up with people because you want to talk about what female in hip hop, Missy can, or what person in hip hop, period, Missy can match up with. You kind of draw a blank. Um, this is what I will say. I guess this
See,
kind of
Missy
shows
doing.
how
Hold on,
people
Mike.
view
Let me say
Buster.
something right quick.
Go
Missy
ahead.
doing a versus with another female almost isn't fair because of how much
Yeah.
she's written for other female artists. There's so much stuff she could pull from to beat another female in a versus. That's why I like the Buster idea because
Yeah.
what the Brat's saying is true. Like it ain't just her catalog stacked up; it's all that stuff she did for other people. Like she
Even
can go do
outside of
Cold
that,
Rock.
though, like her catalog alone, I don't think there's a female in hip hop that has a catalog as long as hers. I think Nicki might because Nicki came up in the era where people made a whole lot of music and a whole lot of collaborations. But when you start talking about
It's not
females
as
in hip
strong.
hop, that no, not they're not. But I'm just saying like just to have a long catalog because not a lot of females in hip hop on a mainstream level have more than 3 or 4 albums. That you know what I'm saying that we're hitting like that. And I think you got Kim out there and you got Nicki out there. When you start talking about 3 or more albums that were in heavy rotation like that,
Yeah, no deal.
listen, I think
No deal.
that for me, I think I'm a Busta Rhymes fan and I'm a huge Missy fan, Missy and Timbaland.
Mm-hmm.
I love the combination of both. I think that me as a Busta Rhymes fan, I view Busta Rhymes differently than the mainstream audience does, and I think that's why for me, I want to see, and I see people in the chat talking about Ludacris. I like that matchup.
You texted me about that.
I like that matchup, and when Luda and Nelly did theirs, I don't think a lot of people saw it. That's when they had a lot of sound quality issues with verses. They didn't have the big stage. And I was sitting there like, wow, Luda has a lot of work and a lot of collaborations stylistically. As MCs, that makes sense. I think there's a slight era difference, right? With Luda coming in 2000 and some of Busta's '90s stuff being a little bit more raw. And see, I kind of view Busta Rhymes as the woo ha Busta Rhymes, the make sure everything remains raw Busta Rhymes. And I don't know if that's the accurate way to view him, but that's kind of how I view him. So I like the Ludacris matchup, but I was talking to Ron yesterday, and he said, "Well, what about Method Man?" And I was like, "Well, you know what? I think that's even better. I would like to see Busta Rhymes and Method Man, and the fact that Method Man and Busta come from the same era. They're MCs. They're great performers because Method Man is a very underrated performer. I know we talk about Method Man and Redman's performance ability together, but as an individual, Method Man's pretty strong too.
Both of them separately are very strong performers. Yes.
Very strong performance separately. And when you talk about the features that those guys did in that '90s era, there's nobody who's a better feature MC than Busta and Method Man in the '90s. Period. So I like the Method Man and Busta Rhymes matchup for me a little bit more than this.
When you say feature artist, do you mean like on a hit making, like mainstream level?
I mean, like when, well, I guess you could say that, but just on some street shit, like when Method Man was on Mom Made Up with Tupac, or when he was on The What with Biggie, or when Busta Rhymes and Method Man were on Hit 'Em High from Space Jam, or when Busta Rhymes and Method Man were on the Vibin' remix with Boys to Men. You
That's
know
what
what
I
I
was
mean?
thinking about. The
Shit
Vibin
like
remix was
that.
dope.
Darnell Lee says Meth would get washed. I don't know, man. Method Man is a member of the Wu Tang. When you got Wu Tang records to fall back on, you have an edge. Period. Like, let's think about that. Even outside of Method Man's individual shit, he got Wu Tang shit to fall back on.
It's a whole problem,
That's
Mike.
a
We just
whole problem. So I
we
don't
about
think
to
Method Man
Mike.
would get
We're
washed.
actually
I
about to.
think Luda could possibly get washed.
I don't like that for Luda because here's what I was actually about to ask you. I have a few thoughts. My first thought, if we want to go to Luda right quick, is that is Luda's biggest hits his biggest Buster's biggest hits, like in terms of how people are going to react to it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where, and I felt like this watching the Luda and Nelly verses. A lot of their music, I say this respectfully, is a little dated.
Like, how about this? Like when Buster plays, like even an older hit, like when he plays "Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See." Like
Listen, if he plays that and Method Man plays Bring the Pain, this ain't a wash.
exactly, and so I think I would give Buster the edge still, but I think
Yeah,
it's viable. I had a couple of thoughts about a couple of verses. Maybe because we're not going to get the Nas and Jay verses. I was actually thinking about doing some tribute verses where you do a Biggie and Jay verses and you do a Nas and Pac verses. What are your thoughts about that? Because we're not getting the Nas and Jay verses, so maybe you could
I
do a
think a
tribute
Nas and
verses.
Pac, yeah, I think a Nas and Pac versus is very interesting. I think that a Big and J versus, that's interesting too on a different level.
Right. Jay may
Yeah,
not want to do
right.
that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because the thing is, and I've always felt like this about Jay. I think Jay really worked to be the greatest, and I know we have spoken about this in previous episodes. I think that. Hold on, let me cut this off. This alert is bothering me. I think we spoke about this in previous episodes, right? The fact that Nas has probably passed Jay catalog wise just because of the work that he's done over the past 5 to 10 years. But Jay's blueprint to get to where he is in his prominence was through the lane that Biggie left wide open. And I think that when you play those Biggie records and then you play a Jay record against it, you're gonna hear that. And it's as great as Jay was able to fill in some of those spots that Biggie left open, Big still did it better. And I say that respectfully. I mean, Jay did it the best he could. He was the best person for the job. But what Big did on One More Chance, man, I can't really see anybody doing that. To be honest, could you?
Mike, you got a few songs like that. I
No,
feel
I'm
that way
just
about
using that as an
Hypnotized. I feel that
example.
way about More Money, More Problems. Like who can start off a verse on a hit record talking about BIGPOPPA, no info for the DEA, federal agents, mad because I'm flagrant. Like who get like he crazy
These are
with it.
radio
No,
records. Like, you can
it ain't the same. It ain't,
no.
and that was always my biggest contention with Jay is that like for me he always filled a void in the lane that got left open.
Right.
Not so much as created a lane. Pac created a lane. Big created a lane. Nas created a lane. And I
So
also want to retract one of my statements when I said Pac's got heavy enough records to contend with Rakim's catalog too, because Pac's records are so heavy,
Pac's records are different. I
so
want to
heavy.
get back real quick though. What do you think about the possibility of Busta and Meth? And I know people will say that Method Man and Redman did their verses, but that was more like a concert. That wasn't a verses at all, and it was incredible because I'm a
Definitely was a
huge fan
celebration.
of both of them. That was a
The whole
concert.
celebration.
That was a concert. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about the possibility of Busta and Method Man?
No, I like that because Meth got the Wu Tang shit to pull from, which we're about to get into.
Mm-hmm.
He's got "I'll Be There for You." That's bigger than any records Busta's ever made.
It's real.
That's real.
Yeah.
I got "Bring the Pain," Mike, which I still think is one of the 50 best rap songs ever.
As much as I love Busta and Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See, I'm listening to Bring the Pain before that record. Now, I'm not going to say that in the verses that, people would score Bring the Pain over it. But
I
me
will.
personally,
I will. No, it's a better record. "Bring the Pain's better than "Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See." I'll say that live right now,
we're going to get to Bring the
without
Pain in a minute when
hesitation.
we talk about Takao.